1966 में मेरा IIT में सिलेक्शन हो गया था। मैंने सोचा मुझे ज़िंदगी जो है निर्जीव मशीनों के साथ नहीं गुजारनी। I read for one more year and joined medical profession. So I became a doctor. At that point of time, being a doctor was considered to be one of the two good professions. I had colleagues of mine friends of mine, very old friends, childhood friends, who didn't make the cut and then sat for the interview and joined IAS. One of them retired as the Chief Secretary of a state. And we actually pitied him. The guy, poor guy, he'll have to go and sit in an office. Little realizing that 20 years down the line, he would be chief secretary or something of the sort, and I would still be applauding somebody going on a two-wheeler, assistant professor or professor, something of the sort. But that's what time does. I have no regrets about being what I am, and it's been a nice journey. But I do have regrets now, because what I joined is no longer what it is now. I joined to become a physician. In the last, I've been in this profession for 50 years now. I passed out in 71, so it's been 50 years as a doctor. And in the last 50 years, from a physician, from a healer, we become healthcare workers. So to my mind, that's a huge drop down. We had patients for whom we would be willing to give blood. We would forget our meals, we would forget our all entertainment. I remember a time when I was doing my neurosurgery training. I had recently got married. We'd gone to see a movie in Lucknow. In the middle of the movie, the movie was interrupted to say AK Singh required. So, required an emergency. So obviously the movie had to be left, and my wife was wholly very despondent, very angry, very disappointed. I was actually sleeping at that point of time. Because that's the only time that you get to sleep. So therefore, 3 hours of no shore, no light, you can sleep. So we went back, and that was normal, okay? My wife didn't think of leaving me or anything of the sort. It was a normal thing. It was what was expected, that you have some life at stake, which you might be able to help save. You should leave your pleasures, you should go, period. No questions asked, no other things, period. And that, saving the life in itself is the remuneration, the reward for whatever you're doing. Whether people recognize that or not, people, whatever, it does not matter. But people actually accepted it. We had a young lady who had a brain tumor. Her family, I was in KGMC, I passed my MCH, and this lady required surgery, but her family had gone home to collect some money so that they could eat. The hospital did not charge anything. In the meantime, we said, let's operate upon you. So my teacher said, भाई इसको operate कर दे तुम्हें कल. तो उसने कहा वो मेरे पति गए हुए हैं. तो उसने कहा हम लोग तो हैं. मैं ठीक है कर दो ऑपरेट. तो शी वॉज ऑपरेट द नेक्स्ट डे. उसके लिए ब्लड वगैरह इंतजाम हम में से कोई गया आदमी जाके डोनेट कराया. अगले दिन भी ऑपरेट अपॉन हर. It was a relationship that you had with the patient. My teachers, people will come, unknown people will land up at his house at 4 in the morning, because the train came at that time. We're looking, दिखाने आना है डॉक्टर छाबड़ा को. वहाँ पे रात में आ गया. डॉक्टर छाबड़ा जो है सुबह उनको चाय पिलाया, नाश्ता कराया, उसके बाद हॉस्पिटल लेकर आए, उनका जांच कराया, ऑपरेशन करा. Doctor was a part of the family. Then something started changing over a period of time. Around 90s started changing. We had patients started becoming clients. I was still in government service in G. Pant. Mrs. Sheila Dikshit, the then Chief Minister of Delhi, was besotted with the industrialization. So she had sent a young lady from CII, Vicky, who was going to tell us, after 30 years, of how to communicate with patients. She had never talked to patients ever. She had never been on either side, but well, she had the relevant degrees. So she said that she would come and talk to us. We were all sitting in the audience, and somewhere in between, she referred to a patient as a client customer. Now, I have had a bad reputation of being guys who just don't really bother as to who the other person is. If I don't like something, I'll get up and ask. So I got up and I objected that this is not on. There's a huge world of a difference between a client or a customer and a patient. It's like I send my child to the school to learn. I pay the fees from which the teacher is paid. Now, is my child a client, a customer? Do I want the teacher to treat my child as a customer or a client? Or do I want him to teach how to be a student, how to learn, how to inquire, whatever, how to become a better person? For me, patient is not the source of money. I can earn money. I know I can leave this job tomorrow and I can earn more money as a badhai, as a mochi, as whatever. I don't need to be in this. But that thing was here to stay. So the word is there. Now, there's a huge difference. When you're a customer, you go and buy something. If something has gone bad, you go and buy a bata juta. Juta sahi nahi aaya. You go back to the shop कि भाई जूता नहीं बैठ रहा, ठीक नहीं बैठ रहा, तो इसे ठीक है मैं क्या कर सकता हूँ, मैंने तो बेचा था आपको, आप जूता अपना मैन्युफैक्चरर को भेज दीजिए, वहाँ से रिप्लेसमेंट भेज देगा. You came with this body, your body is not working well. So what do I do with this body? Where do I send it? I send it for recycling. Where? I die. There's no other way. You need to die, then you need to believe in rebirth, because otherwise you won't be coming back. So, so how can you be a client? How can you be a customer? While you paid, fine, good. So what? You paid for some privileges that you wanted. If you didn't want to pay that, you could always go to a government hospital where you did not have to pay out of your pocket. You were paying indirectly, but you're still paying. There's a very wrong impression that in government, it is free. It is not. Government is paying us, those who work in the government, from the money that you pay as taxes. So it's not free. Nothing is ever free. In this life, there's nothing free, except that. Excepting water and air. So that thing happened. In this process, what happened was, in came a third part. We were patient advocates. We would go by and fight with the administration. We would do this, or with the management, to get something or the other. Now, when the patient became a client, and they bought into it, the patients bought into it, and the doctors were then told to become more professional. So now, when you become a professional, I'm not supposed to be smiling when you come. Now we are told to become professional, which means that should not be laughing, I should not be angry. If a child is unhappy, I should not be holding the child just to comfort. If a person is not feeling well, I should not be holding, because that's not professional. Okay? So I'm being professional. Yes, what's your problem? Okay, fine. Since when? Who all have you seen? Well, I can do that. But will that make me a better doctor? I doubt very much. To me, we have misunderstood the meaning of the word professional, and I would like you people to think as to what a good professional ought to be. A good professional ought to be somebody who focuses on improving his or her work, whatever the person is doing. Now, that could be what is nowadays called as homemaker. If I call somebody a housewife, it will be considered to be a very bad thing. But homemaker is the most important job in the world, incidentally, no matter what kind of a job you have otherwise. Building the next generation, keeping this whole world going is the most important work that anyone can do at any point of time, male or female. So that's what it is. But anyway, so how do I... So I become professional. This came the fourth factor. The fourth factor was that from advocacies, we landed up with a situation when we became adversaries. Because when you're a customer, you have a customer grievances redressal system. So there's a customer grievances redressal system in which even you always have to be, whether you were or not, but you have to be made into a devil. That you did everything out of profit motive, you put out the other person, pass out the other person, and you were not good, and you deliberately wanted to harm the person. I can understand how stupid that can be. Why should I want to harm a patient? Because if a patient gets harmed, would I get another patient? Would another person be stupid enough to come to me? The patient would come to me only if the patient is improved. Okay, period. Very logical, very commonsensical, but no. It has got to be the other way around. And this is on account of the fact that we have chosen for ourselves, out of the different ways in which we can address this problem, the American system. The American system is basically primarily a adversarial system. One against the other. Are there any better systems? Yes, there are. There is a French system and there is a Swiss system, which are much better. But we would not look at it because we are besotted. Sometimes I start wondering that whether we are the undeclared part of USA. It would at times seem so. So we are there. We got into something called publish or perish, which by now it will be very normal for the current generation. It was like this, that every year you had to publish a couple of papers in order to be considered suitable for next improvement or next improvement in your grades. And so therefore, now what would you do? Most of us were not used to doing research, period. We were used to looking after patients and teaching, training. That's what our job was. And suddenly now we are asked to do research and publish. So we would catch hold of our MCH and MD students and give them something to work on. And when they do the work, we would publish. And we'll become the researchers. Because we are the boss. So that's how we become the bosses. So that I could get my next increment. For the student, it didn't really matter because what he or she wanted was the degree, period. So both of us were happy with that bargain. But what happened in that process was that my emphasis went to publishing more and more papers. The third party sitting outside would judge me not based on whether I was a good doctor or not, or a good teacher or not. They would base me on how many publications I had. If I had 50, 60 in peer-reviewed journals, I was a great guy. If I had some international journals, I was a greater guy. So whether I saw patient or not is neither here nor there. Okay, whether my patient survived or not is neither here nor there. Because that was not the outcome criteria that we were watching. A combination of all of that has been that our healthcare system is a broken healthcare system. What are we trying to do? We are trying to ape certain prescriptions that have been given from outside. How do you guys rate USA's healthcare system? Anyone? See, this also tells us to how Euro or how US Anglo-American centric we are. WHO publishes an annual list of, till Corona started, 20 leading economies or Western countries, primarily that means Western countries, in their healthcare, how happy or how satisfied their citizens are, how they rate, because that's, at the end of the day, that's what matters, how the citizens who are to use it feel. USA, consistently, out of 20 is number 18. Then next, and USA spends about 17% of its GDP, which is considerable amount of GDP, as all of you know. And with all that, they are at number 18. Number 1 is usually France or Sweden, one of those. And their annual expenditure on GDP is around 10%, almost half, or less than that. So it is not the money that you throw out to something that matters. It is how you do it. You need to think about it. Nobody seems to be questioning this. So I brought it up so that the younger minds can question, because Sudhanshu Trivedi said something about India once having been a Vishwaguru and wanted to become a Jagadguru again. It's not going to happen until you start questioning. Period. Both of my sons are from Delhi IIT. One of them went to the corporate sector, the other one tried corporate sector, didn't like, left it, took up PhD, and is now teaching in University of Bath. So I've repeatedly told him, why don't you come back? His alma mater has called him a number of times back. He says, no way am I coming back. You are simply not allowed to question in India. So therefore, that's the major thing. So if you want to do anything, kindly start questioning. Until you question, any one of you, those of you who might be aware of India's heritage, you would remember, you would find, one of the things that we always talk about is Bhagavad Gita. Everyone talks about Bhagavad Gita, whether they understand it or not. Sudhanshu Trivedi does. I do not. But what I do know about Bhagavad Gita is this much, that here was Bhagavan Krishna, who was supposed to be incarnate of Ishvara himself, and he was telling this guy, Arjun, his friend, his disciple, fight. And this guy said, no, I'm not going to fight. Every single step he asked questions. And Bhagwan could have just done this, the Jadu wala mamla, and Arjun would have been fighting. Or Bhagwan could have taken his Sudarshan and finished off the job. But no, neither was done. He kept on answering. Kindly remember, that is what the thing is. America does, USA does, Europe does. They question, they allow you to question. That is why they're the world leaders. So if anyone thinks that India can become the world leader without learning to question again, we are all sadly mistaken. So kindly question. Now, last question. Last thing that I'm going to leave you with. How do we fix this broken healthcare system that we have? Government has decided to open, to throw more doctors at you. Can quality replace quantity? If one good doctor can't do something, can 10 bad doctors do? Anyone? If one good teacher can't teach, do I throw 10 teachers? Will that work? Anyway? It won't in anything. Do we learn any lessons from the world at all or not? All the systems that are performing well, whether corporate or private or government, are working on a tiered structure. Everywhere you have a tiered structure for everything where it works. Unless you have a tier, unless you have a broad base, you can't have an apex. I'm a super specialist. I'm a neurosurgeon, right? I'm not supposed to be seeing all patients. I'm supposed to be, as per UK that we keep on talking about all the time, or US, I'm supposed to see not more than 5 patients in a day. Because one patient examination takes an hour in my field, right? So you can't, okay? So who would go to see? It is the general practitioners. Where are the general practitioners? Where are your family physicians? How many of you have a family physician? Anyone has a family physician? Good, good, at least the two or three hands up. Family physicians have become a rarity. We need to get them back. I will leave you with the last one word. I'm sure everybody must have heard of Rudyard Kipling. Rudyard Kipling long ago described, he was the British Empire's poet laureate. He described the 6 blind men of Hindustan as they used to call it. Now, who were they? Now, what the graphic representation of that was, there an elephant and there are 6 guys with eyes blindfolded. One is holding the tail, the other is holding the trunk, and there are 4 guys holding each leg of the elephant. And everybody is saying that now I know what I'm doing. I know this is the entire truth. Okay? I'm holding the leg, and I know I'm the entire truth. I'm holding the hand, I know all the entire truth. So these 6 fellows, all of them are blind. They have caught hold of something, and they say this is the end, this is the whole. So he called us, the 6 blind men of Hindustan. So we become like that. So we need a larger system, a larger base. Kindly go around thinking, because now, why should you think? Why should you bother? Because you're not going to be doctors. You're not going to be engineers. You're going to be managers. You're going to be IAS officers, IPS officers, the hunter-walas. You're going to be managers. Why should you bother? Why should you dirty your hands about this? Because if you or anyone in your family falls sick, you do not know where you'll land up. Okay? You can't determine. If it's an elective thing, you can decide who you would go to. When it's emergency, you cannot decide where you would land up. You'll land up wherever you land up. There, it matters as to whether the person is adequately trained or not. So quantity cannot replace quality. Kindly understand that, and this is not only confined to my field. My field might seem like a very unimportant field. It is a very unglamorous field, I know that. But nowadays, earlier it wasn't. So nowadays it is not a glamorous field, agreed. The point is, it is still important. So kindly think about it. Thank you very much for your patience.